This is a wonderful intermezzo, especially because it follows nicely on the heel of Dr. Laura James' talk about doing the tough, hard work slowly. As Monique introduced, Manon is working within the Dutch National Police Office on the digital transformation, and specifically trying to be a part of an institutional change at a very high level, with her area of expertise being IoT. So I was hoping you could introduce a little bit about your work.
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to mention, except for working at Dutch National Police, I'm also part of the sense makers community in Amsterdam and the Next Generation Internet program of the European Commission. And as the last speaker said, try to get involved. If you look at the website ngi.eu, you find many possibilities to get involved. So just that. At the police, I work as a strategic specialist on digital transformation, and it means that I can look at the technological developments, what they mean for society, what they mean for police work. So in the beginning, I was mostly promoting the use of Facebook, social media, because I thought back then that every police officer should understand social media, the internet, because we are part of society and society is using this. And then slowly I came to realize, especially with the introduction of IoT, that there is this big shadow side, that 24/7 data is collected about us. And that the algorithms behind it, we don't know, or are leading to more, or can lead to more bias, reinforce discrimination, exclusion, and we're also getting more dependent. And we all know in this audience that the security and privacy of many IoT objects is not regulated well. And that touches the core of policing, the way this data is used and those devices. So 3 years ago, I was approached by the city of Amsterdam, and you might have read that only 2 weeks ago, I think, the city of Amsterdam, New York, and Barcelona decided to collaborate on digital rights in the city. But already 3 years ago, they developed principles for a digital city that concern privacy, security, openness, transparency, interoperability, data ownership. And those principles are, like all the other manifestos, just words on paper, a direction we want to go. So they approached me and several other public institutions to collaborate as a coalition of the willing to translate these principles into concrete building blocks. And one of the building blocks is the digital infrastructure. How can we create a safe, sustainable, public digital space where you know what kind of information is gathered around you? And that's what we have been working on the last 3 years, partly by really creating things. So cities are building IoT-registers where every person can check what kind of information is gathered around them. And on the other hand, and that's the project I'm working on, we're trying to create the trust framework. Because in digital public space, if you want to share your data or your devices under your condition, you need tools to do that in a responsible way. You need tools for authentication, for privacy by design, security by design, build logging. You need to build in those application of those safeguards. And what we are doing now is on a national level, and that's what took me a lot of time. I mean, there's 65,000 people working at the police. So on the one hand, I'm trying to promote privacy, and on the other hand, someone is promoting a ride-sharing app that doesn't even have terms and conditions. So it is hard, but we are now on a national level dedicated to contributing to authentication means that are secure and privacy by design.
This is a great segue. I think trust has been discussed a lot throughout this conference and in a lot of different ways. And I was wondering if you could briefly touch on what trust means in your work.
Transparency. I think that's most important. You should know what is the ground for a decision made. You should know like what has been done with your data, the unintended consequences. And on the other hand, freedom of choice. There should be alternatives, and that's what we're trying to build. My personal goal is that in the future, like we have for the public roads, the streets, we have a framework of regulation around the digital public space that you can choose, so that if people use smart health products, I know in America already there's one case of a pacemaker being hacked and a person killed, and we don't always look inside those things as a police force. So I want there to be an infrastructure that you can say, okay, you can buy a pacemaker or you can offer a smart health product to use in your home, but before you can connect it to our public digital infrastructure, look at this trust mark. It needs to be privacy by design, security by design, all those things.
Another question I'd like to ask is, a lot of the people in this audience are working on trust and responsibility and ethics in a bottom-up fashion. You know, we're all working at the bottom, trying to impact the change on the top, and you are sitting at the top, well, close to it, trying to impact change that will affect everything that happens below. And I was wondering if you could address a little bit of some of the opportunities and the challenges that have come from that experience.
I think patience is the most important, because it's 3 years now I'm working on this topic, and now last November we had a member of the board of directors who had asked me to take her into the developments around smart cities, IoT, and responsible tech. So that was a real a good moment for me. I think the most important is what I learned is that the personal approach works best. I started bottom up, but I had a network of people already in management positions. And by doing a lot of presentations, asking for 10 minutes a talk, I always pitched the urgency and the impact we could make. And what really helps is if you make it personal. For an example, it's like I said, 6 years ago I promoted go on Facebook, learn how these things work, and now I'm trying to get the national police of Facebook and WhatsApp. Only we need it because the communities, civilians, expect us to be there because that's where it happens. But as an example, if you are a victim of domestic violence, or you have been a victim of and you're talking to a local police officer, you're telling, but you don't dare to report, you're too afraid. In the end, often telephone numbers are exchanged. As soon as the telephone numbers are exchanged, because the police officer on WhatsApp and Facebook, because it's part of her job, the perpetrator, how do you call it? The perpetrator gets the police officer suggested on Facebook as a friend. And you're laughing, but the sad thing is, that person will think, who in my environment is talking to the police? Beat the victim up again, and no one will understand that this is happening because Facebook behind the scenes is combining that data. So I try to give those kind of examples to make people realize that we are here to safeguard our constitutional values. And what we're doing, being ignorant in some ways about tech, is making the world unsafe. So that's my mission. And the takeaway is patience and talking. Use every opportunity, like here, even if you're not comfortable with it, to talk to people, to present your story and make it personal, because that's when the brain starts to work.
And I don't know exactly how much time we have because the timer was never set. But a quick kind of closing question is, what do you see as the next steps in building this trustable IoT?
I think an important step is that people start using the building blocks already available for creating a trust framework. There is, for example, the IRMA app. It's I Reveal My Attributes. It's an app you can download on your telephone. And what it does share only your attributes. So normally if you go to a shop and you're looking a bit younger, you have to show your driver's license if you want to buy alcohol, which is stupid because then you're sharing all your data. The IRMA app allows you to share only the attribute, I'm older than 18. Do I have time for one more example of how we can make, because that's what a trust framework is. It's not technology as a whole, it's agreements among each other about how we will share data and devices in a safe way. And there's a data example I want to share. The municipality of Utrecht wanted to help people with debt problems. And there is this official debt relief program from the national government, but it takes a lot of time to get into, a lot of money, and you're only starting to get help when you're like 40,000 euro in red. They found out that the moment that, for example, your allowance is paid is often a week after you have to pay your rent. So what they wanted to do is take over the bank account of those people with a debt problem. And they started talking with these people in a pilot, and then with all the building companies, the insurance, the taxes. But that was all one-to-one agreements which they had to make. And especially for a person in debt, it's really too complex to go to the bank and authenticate or give the mandate to the municipality to go to all these partners. So what they did, they used building blocks from a trust framework. And the municipality officer went to such a person, did an intake of around 3 hours, downloaded the IRMA app. Then, together with this person, so the municipality officer checked the identity. They're not allowed to share it because of privacy. Next, they downloaded the IRMA app. And within the IRMA app, the person logged into his bank account. And all the banks are already compliant with the IRMA app. So he could download the confirmation that he was owner of the bank account, that he was this person, and that he mandated the municipality to take over his account. After that, the confirmation, so not the data itself, was placed in a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, and all the other public-private partners participating in this pilot had agreed on, as soon as this confirmation in the public blockchain, we all start changing our internal processes, taking the money from the municipality account, or otherwise putting the money on the municipality account. And the money that was left over after paying the rent, the health insurance, the important things, went to the person involved as living money. So what I want to say is that this is very brilliant for me. It was convincing enough we should create this on a national basis, because this means that adding another person to the system is very easy. You only have to do the intake of 3 hours, because the trust frame infrastructure is in place. On the other hand, if you want to add another insurance company, it's also very easy, because you only have to add one a partner in the system. And that's what the trust framework is about. Sharing data and devices to develop better services for civilians, as to empower them and help them out with their problems. I hope you understood.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And a good reminder, we need to keep listening.